This episode is brought to you by High Point Market. Welcome to the Design Dash podcast, your guide to designing a life you love. Join us as we explore the keys to living the life you want without compromise. Hey everyone, welcome to the Design Dash podcast. I am your co-host, Melissa Grove. I'm here with my co-host, Laura Umansky, and today we're going to talk about marketing. So in our Design Dash community, we have been focused on marketing all month. And I think that one of the questions that we're going to deal with today, the only question that we're going to deal with today is, why does marketing seem like such a challenge? So pretty open-ended question, but I know that in our community, a lot of the members are challenged by either one thing or not having enough time to do it. But there's just always something that makes it harder. So I don't know, Laura, from your perspective as a design business owner, what makes marketing a challenge?
I love this question because I think that we are operating under the assumption that yes, it is a challenge because we've heard it from so many people.
Yeah.
And like you've experienced it just with this firm.
Yeah.
You started here 7 years ago as our director of digital marketing. So clearly there is a gap in a design firm for a marketing specialist. And I think the challenge is, God, I don't know, maybe it's twofold. First is that the expectation is as a business owner, you should be marketing and you should have some idea of what that looks like for you.
Yeah.
And I think the second thing is as a designer, you're a creative. Marketing kind of feels creative. So it's like that twofold thing. Like I'm a business owner, I should know how to market, and I'm a creative. So I should be able to like do my own graphics and be like what I don't think we even know what marketing means, to be honest. Like what the hell does that even entail?
Yeah.
Because
I
it's
mean, I
a
think
skill
that's a good
set.
place to start.
There's a lot. So I think it's like it's a challenge because we feel like we should be able to do it. But I think it's like that Dunning-Kruger effect. Like we think we know what the hell we're doing and we have no clue. We think we're smarter than we are when it comes to marketing.
Yeah. Well, I think because marketing can seem so accessible, right? People are just like, oh, I'm just posting on social media or like I'm going to events and so I think that we conflate marketing itself with so many other things. Like marketing and public relations are two different things in my book.
Yep.
Networking is different. Digital marketing is something that's different than traditional marketing and advertising. And
Totally.
all of these things within the field of marketing are full-time jobs in some places. And so I think,
That's so true. And I think like designers can think about it too from, I don't know, the perspective of someone that feels like, oh, I can just do design by myself. I'm creative.
right.
No, I have no training. No, I've never practiced professionally, but I can just design a space. So it's kind of like that same idea, like a designer being like, oh, no, I don't have any professional training in marketing and I've never done it. I don't have an education in it, but sure, I can do that myself. Like, no, you can't.
Yeah. No, I mean, there are some creative aspects to marketing, but it's also really procedural. And I think that one of the biggest things for interior design business owners going into it is that they lack a repeatable process. And then what
Mm,
that does is it leads to inconsistency and then it leads to just burnout on something because
right.
let's face it, sometimes marketing is really time consuming and it's tedious.
Tedious.
Submitting for awards, managing your social media, uh, facilitating photo shoots. Like I just spent an hour talking about a photo shoot that we've been planning, and it's so anxiety provoking and so stressful. And it's really hard to do all of that on your own. And
Yep.
so that to me is like a big one is thinking that you can do it, but then going into it without a repeatable process, with inconsistency, without a schedule. I mean, it's immediately just going to be the bane of your existence. Start that way.
So, okay, I have a question. I have a lot of questions. But the first one is, okay, so let's say you're a solopreneur. You don't have a huge budget for marketing. You can't afford, or at least in your mind, you are not yet ready to hire somebody to do marketing for you or to put this big strategic plan together because you need one.
Yeah.
What do you do? Like, what's your recommendation for someone that's solo?
Yeah, I mean, if you're starting out with 0, like zilch, nothing, maybe you're coming from a firm and you don't have a book of business, or like you're completely pivoting and this is a new career for you, I would say just 2 things: a website at the bare minimum, and it can just be 1 page, a few images, maybe even some inspiration images, maybe some things that you've taken on your iPhone, which is perfectly fine. Phones are fantastic these days as cameras, but having contact information there and some kind of relationship builder, explaining your design philosophy or your approach or your background and why you've been so drawn to this industry, which is very intimate and it's very personal. So I think if you're
So like
able
a
to
narrative, like a story.
creating a
Okay.
story around yourself, and then I would say at the bare minimum, social media is Instagram.
Okay.
And you don't even have to have your own images, I think, in order to get started on Instagram. Obviously, that's ideal. But you can post other images of other designers as long as you're tagging them very carefully, and saying like, oh, I really love how they did this. And then adding your own flair to that. And then showing yourself shopping, showing yourself
Mm.
traveling, like all of these other things that are inspiring to you, they will most definitely be inspiring to your ideal client.
And so just a question on the images, because I think that that has obviously been a big point of contention in this industry. Can I post other people's images? Social media is fair game, it sounds like, as long as you're crediting, but blogs are not. Is that correct?
Right, yeah, I mean, once you post something on Instagram, it's kind of the property of Mark Zuckerberg, so
Okay.
he just lets you know, like, you can use it with proper usage. But something on your website, yes, make sure that you're not using copyrighted images or anything like that. So a way to
That
get
can get you in a load of trouble.
a lot of trouble, a lot of lawsuit trouble. So the way that people do that is they'll embed an Instagram image there.
Oh,
So then you're going over to Instagram. You can still show, those other things, but again, it's the property of Instagram and
okay.
they want you to
I think
come
that's
onto
a
their platform.
so let's say then that you're beyond that first website, you're beyond just starting your social media. You have a book of business, you are busy. But you don't yet have somebody dedicated to helping you. Like, what's next? And I think that we talk to a lot of designers within our community. They're at that phase.
Yeah.
Like, they're busy. They know they need this consistency because we talk about it. How do they get that?
I would hire out for it. I mean, if you're at a point now where you're so busy that you can't do it yourself, then why put the pressure on yourself to do it? And if you have a full book of business, then I would I would invest in marketing. Now, it doesn't have to be, a full-time marketing director who's been in the business 20 years.
Right.
You can really work with somebody who maybe even has just 2 years of experience and is there taking photographs of you at site visits or when you're out and about at events or when you're shopping and helping you post that to social media. That's a huge benefit. And it's pretty affordable, I think, depending on who you go with. But it also really depends too on how you want to market your business. I mean, there are a lot of designers who will focus mainly on referrals or word of mouth, although I will say that's what makes marketing very challenging too, is when you rely too heavily on referrals because then your marketing
Mm,
becomes very reactive. But I will say, like, if you're at a point where you're so busy, you don't have the time to market yourself, hire it out. And you can find somebody on Upwork, you can find a freelancer that isn't local to you. You can find somebody who's maybe fresh out of school and looking for experience. That is a little bit more difficult because then you have another person to manage.
yeah, then it
And
becomes management. Right.
then it becomes management. But I,
That's
I
a
think
different episode.
that sweet spot would be somebody who maybe has 2 to 3 years of experience. They've either worked in an agency before or in a corporate environment so that they understand the process. Because what I know from a lot of the small business owners that we speak to in our communities, that it's you just can't work like a big corporation. And so the first thing that go out the window is standard operating procedures, right? You
Yeah.
just do whatever you can. And marketing works better when it's organized.
Yeah. And you've said this before, like marketers or, even a social media specialist coming from an agency background, that's what you're looking for.
Yeah, I do think that there's a lot of value in being a generalist, and there's a ton of discourse around that right now within the marketing community of
Okay.
that's that's the biggest benefit, especially if you're moving in house. Like if you're, and we don't have to get into this, but like if you're specializing in something, we talk about this all the time too, like working with a drafter or somebody who's more technical and just has this slender, narrow window of expertise, but is really, really good at it. It's easy for them to freelance or contract out. If
Mhm.
you have somebody who's just a jack or Jane of all trades and they can manage your social media, they can help you build a PR strategy, they can help you with photo shoots. They have a great eye for the camera. That's a great person to bring in house. And I think those people typically get that kind of experience in an agency atmosphere, which completely takes advantage of them and exploits them. But there's no better learning experience than
There's
being
some
exploited.
background there. There's something like there's some trauma or something behind that statement. You have an agency background?
I do.
Yep. There
Yes,
you
and I
go.
have a lot of friends who have also worked in agencies too, and I think everybody will say the same thing.
But man, do they have a great amount of experience. So,
Absolutely, and
yeah.
I mean, I would trust those people with my life in terms of marketing because they know anything and everything, and the kind of person who can really hack it in that environment is somebody who's dissatisfied with anything less than excellence, and I think that especially when you're working in an environment like this one, which is so image focused and so reputation focused, you need somebody who's that hyper
Yeah.
vigilant
Has a
about it.
very high bar, right.
Mhm.
And so let's say I'm hiring for it. I wanna outsource. I don't wanna bring someone in-house, but I would want that agency experience. What is there, like, a line I can put into my job description or my post on Upwork? What do I say?
Well, if you don't wanna bring anybody in-house, then I would just work with an agency. You
Oh,
can you can do that. They're a little bit more expensive, so I think that can be harder to work around, but if you just want to give away photography, give away, like, your brand identity or work with somebody to help you build a brand identity, I mean, that's the way to go.
okay.
'Cause, one great thing about an agency is that they will have a creative team there as well that I think would connect to you as a creative yourself and how to promote yourself. And like I said, it's a little bit more, but
Yeah, that's a big investment though, right?
it can be.
Can be.
It can
Yeah.
be. And there's a lot of people who, like, have either, worked in a big agency environment and are now starting out on their own.
Yes.
And so, but so they have the experience and they know what they're doing, but they're not going to be, a $12,000 a month retainer.
And so backing up to marketing strategy, how often are we sitting down and, like, setting strategy? When does that happen? And then, like, how often am I revisiting?
I mean, I like to set it like October of one year to plan for the next year.
Okay.
So to plan for 2026, I was thinking about strategy in October, November of 2025. And then that's it. Like, I mean, the strategy doesn't necessarily change so much. That's your goal. That's your vision and what you're trying to achieve, but the tactics might be a little bit more dynamic. I think that what can be confusing for interior designers is confusing just aesthetics with strategy. Like, oh, I need to post something and I need to post something beautiful and that's great. Okay, every designer
True.
thinks beautiful. Every designer
Yeah.
is. So you really need to differentiate yourself with that strategy. And that I think is the challenging part.
Hmm.
So it's like, what do you want to achieve through those photos? Who do you want to reach? Like what are you trying to get out of it? Because if the goal is just, oh, to post something pretty on Instagram, I mean, everybody's doing that.
Right. That's just a lot of noise.
Right.
So, and I think that goes back to something we were talking about yesterday when, in relation to PR
PR.
and public relation and the difference between PR and marketing. But that through line was you still have to have a story. You have to have
Yes.
something to say. You have to have a narrative. So just like when you're pitching to a magazine, let's say a project, everyone's got a pretty house.
Mhm.
What's the story behind it? So I feel like it keeps coming back to that.
Yeah, it's always a story and your why. Like people always say, like, come back to your why. And it's the same thing with marketing. Come back to why you're doing it and then who you're doing it for. And we talked about that a lot yesterday too, is I think if you can identify and then document, okay, who am I as a firm? Like what am I trying to achieve and who am I doing this for? That's the basis of every strong and effective marketing strategy.
We were talking about this yesterday in our co-working session for the community, and I thought what was really interesting is that every single person has a different ideal client type.
Yeah.
And we're all in different regions, but even just in this group, our ideal clients are so different. and our ideal type of projects are so different that, I mean, really, like, if you can spell those things out, who's your ideal, and you know who you're talking to, I think that's so important because, like, the designer 2 doors down from me here is talking to a completely different client than I am.
Right.
I
And
love
isn't
that.
that
I think
kind of
that's really great.
freeing? Have you ever felt,
It's freeing,
limited
yes.
as a designer, or like, especially starting out, just like, gosh, this industry is so competitive. Like, what am I going to
Saturated,
do?
competitive.
Yeah,
Yes.
and then you get on social media, of course, which is a boon and a bust to everybody. And you see what your competitors are doing, and it's just like, oh gosh, well, I have to do that. I mean, I don't think
Yeah,
anybody can escape that kind of feeling. But then you realize that, like, okay, your competitor is completely different than you. Like, they're looking for a completely different kind of client. They work in a completely different kind of way, that you're not necessarily competing for the same people.
correct. Yes, and I do think that that is liberating, but it's not gonna stop the comparison, of course. Every time you
Oh
open
no.
up social media, you're like, "Damn it, I'm not doing enough," or, "Damn it, how did I not think of
That's
that
just like now,
creative
unfortunately.
approach to that issue? Like, how did someone else come with that first?" But then if you really sit down and, like, and talk to your peers, I think you will see everyone's approaching it so differently, and their
Yeah.
goals are not your goals. And that's where like, knowing yourself, knowing your client, knowing your story and your why, I think that's what's so important.
Yeah. And then I think taking that further is, not feeling threatened by being too much or taking a strong opinion. I've been talking about that a lot in the community as well, is
Ugh,
that you have to take a stand. You just have to, or else you're just going to seem wishy-washy or mediocre, which no designer wants to come off as middle of the road. Taking a strong opinion or taking a stand doesn't necessarily have to be something negative, even though, like, every media outlet is saturated with, these are 10 trends that need to die in this
oh, I
year.
know.
Like,
Yes, I
ugh.
know.
And I think that's so tired. But I think having some kind of clear position or a bold message, like, I absolutely love boucle, right? Which everybody's so tired of right now. But I think if you
I'm
can
like,
say that,
"Stop
like,
it."
I absolutely love it, and here's why, you're gonna really reach the people who do have that strong opinion, then and share your
Yeah,
opinion, and that's how you build that trust. So that's another thing that I'm highly recommending to the community now, is like, whatever if you're afraid of saying stuff that you don't like something, which that's okay too. Um, Although
say what you
nothing
do.
really builds trust more than mutual hatred. but but I think that if you have a bold message about, like, man, I really like this. This is how I work. That's that's just going to reinforce who you are and who you're for, and it's not going to be, I don't know, I think people see it as kind of divisive, but
Mm,
that's not necessarily the goal.
yeah. I do think that's kinda scary, especially as a new business owner, if you're, like, putting yourself out there and you're drawing a line in the sand and you are very opinionated. It can feel like, "Ooh, I'm gonna alienate people that could potentially be a client, and I need
Oh,
every client I can get." Um, but I think what you're saying makes a lot of sense. Like, you want a certain type of client, you want people that align with you and your values and goals. So drawing that line in the sand is not necessarily a bad thing, and it may attract those people faster, like your people
absolutely.
faster.
Yeah.
Ugh, I hate being wishy-washy, but damn if I'm not sometimes or all the time. Like, I mean, there's definitely some things that I'm like, "Do not stagger art in a house," like, those kinda
Yeah.
things. Like, if you stagger art, you're dead to me, like, do not do it, those things, but, like, other than that, I'm kind of like a live and let live, like, if you like that, I'm sure we can figure it out. Do I have to get divisive?
I think clients, especially for this is another challenge, I think, that for interior designers, is that not everybody's an interior designer. So
Yeah,
the way that you see something that you probably take for granted because it's just something that you felt
for
for a very
sure.
long time, that's completely new to 80% of the population. And I think leaning into that a little bit is huge. I
Like,
think
from
about
an
a lot of the design.
educational s like, as an educator?
It can be, but just like what you're talking about with
Yeah.
staggering art,
Oh my
and like
god.
giving
I
your
can't.
feeling as to like, okay, well, this is why I really don't like it. Like that's new information to somebody. It's like, oh, well, I've
It's a
never
visceral
thought about
reaction.
staggering art before in my entire life, and now I have an opinion on it. And it's your opinion because yours is the first I've heard. So I think that it's totally fine. And I see a lot of the younger people right now on usually on TikTok because that's where they are. But these interior designers, they're definitely taking a stand. Now, of
I
course,
know. Yes, I have seen that quite a bit.
that's the trend, like
Yeah.
that's going to get views.
Yep.
So I think that that's often a pitfall though, is, you want to avoid trends as a designer, but I think avoiding trends in social media can be really, really hard because when you work your ass off on something and get 800 views versus like, okay, I said I absolutely hate the X, Y, and Z and then get 80,000, you feel
Yeah.
like, okay, well, man, I gotta keep doing that
That's
trend.
working, so now I'm a negative person, right? I
Right,
gotta talk
right.
about what I hate all day. You know what, though? If that's working for you, cool.
Yeah.
There is a client base for you out there.
hmm It'll get tired though.
Yeah, I'm just like, "Just don't stagger art and we're good." That I'm sure I have so many things. Do I have a list? I have a list.
Now that you've been a business owner for a long time now, what do you find challenging about marketing now?
I mean, really just like what you're talking about on TikTok, like, there's trends. There's young designers coming up, they're latching onto these trends. They're doing really well with it, so I think just, like, wanting to stay fresh
Yeah.
and, like, relevant is a big thing that worries me. I don't know if I mean, I guess it's a challenge. We've been around a long time. So, yeah, so, like, staying relevant, and then also just, like, avoiding jumping on a trend like that because it's working for someone else and staying the course. Like,
Yeah.
it's that balance, like, staying the course, but also, like, do I need to mix things up to stay relevant? That's really what weighs on me, I think.
Yeah, and that's hard. And I think that's where like if you set that clear strategy by first, understanding who you are and who you serve and setting that strategy at the beginning of the year, then you can change your tactics as time
Mm,
goes on, and maybe you did jump on a trend and it really worked for you, but man, it's not gonna work for you forever. I mean, if it did,
right.
we'd all be billionaires off of TikTok, right? But you could have a really successful post one day and then get, 0 views the next 3
Right.
months. So
And then in the
unfortunately,
grand scheme of things, does that really even matter?
no, I mean, it really doesn't. A lot of those are vanity metrics, and I'd say that's another challenge too,
Right.
is getting too caught up in follower counts and views or, going to an event and just, like, attending, but not coming away with names and numbers and a plan for, meeting with
Totally.
that vendor that you met. It's just there's a lot of follow through that has to happen.
That's huge. Yes. Okay. So it's strategy, it's goal setting, and then it's following through on the back end because, like, vanity metrics, what the hell does that get you? It may not get you a client. Probably not.
Yeah.
It's the actual, like, boots on the ground execution. Oh, God. It's all a lot of work, isn't it?
It's a lot of work, that's why I recommend somebody to do it for you.
Yeah.
I mean,
I
I think
mean,
as soon as you're able, to find somebody who can do it for you, and again, that's why I recommend somebody who's worked in an agency environment before because they can be more
yeah.
of a generalist and they've done more stuff. We did talk a little bit yesterday about PR and working with PR firms, and I think that is
Yep.
something that, a lot of small business owners especially conflate PR with marketing, and they're not always the same, and they're 2 very different skill sets. I know very talented marketers who are completely introverted and hate going to events, and I know PR people who are very extroverted can make friends with anybody, but could not sit there and manage a social media calendar.
No way.
It's
Yeah.
just very, very different. But you don't have to work with them all at the exact same time either.
Yeah, I mean, it is a lot to digest, and I think the biggest deal is, like, sitting down and determining what is your goal? What are you hoping to get out of
Yeah.
it in the first place? Like, why are we marketing? Why do we wanna work with a publicist? Why do we need a PR strategy at all? So
Yeah.
I think if you can and you've asked me that before, I'm like, "God, do we need to hire this PR agency?" And you're like, "Why?"
Well, yeah, what for?
"Why?" Like, "Why?" I'm like, "God, because I feel like we should?" And you're like, "No, no.
Yeah,
Why?" Like,
that's not
what's
good
your
enough reason. And I think too, we often attach productivity to marketing. Like marketing has to produce something
Right.
tangible. I need to come away with 3 new leads this week or else that marketing was a fail. And
Yeah.
just the way that we do marketing nowadays, especially for this industry is really focused on brand awareness, and that's not necessarily measurable.
Yep.
So I think like when we are thinking about, okay, what do I want to get out of it? It isn't always 3 leads, more people to my website, more phone calls. It can just be, you know what? I attended that event and I felt really good about it. And now I have
Mhm.
3 people in my network that I'll have coffee with next week. And yes, that's not
Yeah.
generating revenue right now. Uh, but that's more realistic.
Yeah. I think as long as you're thoughtful about it and you know what you want out of whatever initiative it is worth doing. And I would say like a lot of this may sound overwhelming because like I'm feeling overwhelmed right now. So if you're listening and you're like, holy moly, what do I do here? This is where I'm going to pitch our community to you because we talk about this together in a small group setting and we do come away with strategy. We come away with tactics and we hold each other accountable. So if you're feeling overwhelmed, like we're there for you. Come check it out for real because I feel like I come away with like tactics every time we meet,
Yeah, that's
like
good.
something new that I'm going to try.
Yeah. And I'm always there to tell you, "Hey, that's not gonna work," or
Yeah.
why do you want to do that?
Yeah.
Because that just sounds awful for you to put yourself in that position,
Yeah.
and I think sometimes as a business owner, you do feel like you have to take it all on, and it's just like, no, you really don't. Just do a
Yep.
couple of things so they're actually feasible, and so you can actually do them well, because I
Yep.
think the worst thing, and the worst thing about failed marketing is trying to do too much, and then it all looks mediocre, and
Ugh, yeah.
that's not a good place to be in. I would rather have one great big project, in a 6-month period that we published and did editorial on, and we had video and we had drone footage, which all of that takes a lot of planning, rather than, "You know what? I posted 8 beautiful photos on Instagram this week. Like, I did it." And it's like, "Okay, well, that
To what end? Yeah.
yeah, what's that gonna get you?"
Right. Yeah. I mean, there's just a lot of options out there. So I would just to circle back to the original question, like marketing is a challenge and it is a challenge for interior design business owners for sure.
Yeah.
But there are solutions. Stay focused, stay the course. You can do
Yeah.
this. I think, yeah, it is a lot of pressure though.
I think the one thing that business owners need to do that absolutely has to rest with you as the design business owner is figuring out who you are and who you serve. Like your marketing person's not going to come up with that. If you're working with a marketing agency, they're not going to be able to do that for you. That's one thing that rests with you. But everything else, somebody else can handle. Once you give them that information, though, like you have to
Yeah.
figure it out.
Yeah. Okay. This is all so valuable. And now I'm going to walk away and like just look back at like, okay, I need to, who am I and who am I serving? I mean, I know these things.
Yeah,
It's a good thing to refresh. So I'm going to go look at
it
it
is
right
because
now.
sometimes it changes too.
It does. Yeah. All right. Thanks. And I hope you guys will like and follow and join us in the community.
Yeah, hope to see you there.
Thank you for listening. Make sure to check out our next podcast coming live next week on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. In the meantime, you can find us and more wonderful stories like these on designdash.com. And make sure to follow us at Design Dasher on Instagram and TikTok. Till next time.